Today, we're going to dive deep into one of ancient Israel's most important celebrations, the Feast of Tabernacles. Now, on the surface, it looks like a festival about harvest and history, but what if it's actually a key to understanding the future?
So let's just jump right into the big question. Can an ancient festival really predict what's to come? Well, the idea we're exploring here is that Israel's feasts weren't just holidays they made up. The theory is that they actually form a prophetic calendar, a kind of map for key events in a huge unfolding story.
And this whole concept really hinges on the belief that these festivals weren't random at all. Instead, they were laid out as part of a divine pattern, a blueprint, you could say, for how major world events would play out over time. Now, to really understand this calendar, you have to know a key Hebrew word, moed. This doesn't just mean feast or a holiday. It actually means a fixed appointment, a preset time on a divine schedule. And this is so important because it shifts our whole perspective. These weren't just celebrations. They were appointments with destiny.
This divine schedule is really built around 3 major pilgrimage feasts every single year. And what's fascinating is that each one is directly linked to a specific harvest. You've got Passover with the early barley harvest, Pentecost with the summer wheat, and then the big one, Tabernacles, with the final autumn grape harvest. And these harvests, they're not just about farming. They symbolize different stages of a much deeper spiritual journey.
So when you zoom out and look at the big picture, you start to see this really clear progression. Passover represents the beginning, right? The initial promise. But Tabernacles, that represents the end goal, the complete and total harvest. It's like watching a story unfold, from the first seed planted, all the way to its final mature form.
Okay, so to truly understand this final feast, we've got to go back. We have to understand the journey it's all about, that incredible 40-year trek through the wilderness after Israel left Egypt.
And here is the single most important thing to get about that journey. The wilderness was never, ever meant to be a permanent home. It was always a temporary transitional phase. It was necessary, for sure, but it was not the final destination.
This verse from the book of Hebrews just captures the mindset perfectly. The whole journey was a pilgrimage. They knew they were strangers, just passing through. They were constantly on the move, always looking forward to a permanent home, an inheritance they had been promised.
And get this, they carried a powerful, physical reminder of this hope with them every single day for 40 long years. The bones of Joseph. You might wonder, why? Well, centuries earlier, Joseph had made his family promise to carry his remains all the way to the promised land. So those bones were a constant, tangible reminder that this whole journey had a point and that their ultimate hope was in a future fulfillment, even a future resurrection. And this brings us to the really cool symbolism of where they lived. Living in these flimsy temporary booths, or Succoth, forced them to keep their focus on the goal. It was like a daily declaration that said, we're not home yet. Think about it. If they had started building permanent houses, it would have meant they'd become complacent, that they were mistaking this long, hard transition for the destination itself.
So with all of that context, the journey, the hope, the temporary dwellings, let's finally turn our attention back to the Feast of Tabernacles itself, the ultimate harvest festival. Now, the Feast of Tabernacles doesn't just show up out of nowhere. It's actually the grand finale of the whole autumn festival season. It comes right after the Feast of Trumpets and the very solemn Day of Atonement. It's the huge celebration that caps off the entire year. During this week-long party, several key rituals took place. Of course, there was living in the booths, but there were also special water-pouring ceremonies, waving palm branches, and lighting up the temple. Every single one was packed with meaning, and one of them, in particular, became the backdrop for one of the most dramatic public statements ever made.
Okay, I want you to just picture this scene for a second. It's the last and the most important day of this very feast, right in Jerusalem. The city is absolutely packed with people. And right at the height of it all, Jesus stands up and shouts this out for everyone to hear.
You see, the timing here was everything. For 7 straight days, the priests had performed a ritual of pouring out water from a special pool. But on the 8th and final day, they stopped. There was no water pouring. And it was right at that moment, in that symbolic silence, that Jesus offers this new spiritual living water. He was basically saying, that ritual you've been doing, I am the reality it was pointing to.
So what was the ultimate future reality this whole feast was pointing toward?
Well, it's believed to represent the final harvest, what the Bible calls the redemption of the body. The idea is that our mortal bodies are kind of like those temporary tabernacles, and this feast prophesies a time when they will be exchanged for permanent, immortal ones. The Apostle Paul even talks about this as a mystery. He says we won't all die, but we will all be changed. This incredible concept of a profound physical transformation is seen as the ultimate fulfillment that the Feast of Tabernacles was hinting at all along. So let's bring this all back together. The real power of this prophetic blueprint we've been talking about is in its precision. It all comes back to that word moed, the appointed times. Just look at the evidence from the spring feasts. The crucifixion didn't just happen sometime around Passover. It happened on the exact day at the exact time the Passover lambs were being sacrificed. The Holy Spirit didn't just show up sometime in the spring. It came on the exact day of Pentecost, at the precise hour of the morning temple offering. The precision is just staggering. The main takeaway here is that this isn't just a loose, thematic connection. It's like a perfectly timed divine clock. These prophecies were fulfilled with stunning accuracy, right down to the day and even the hour. And once you see that, you realize you're looking at an incredibly reliable pattern.
And that, of course, brings us to our final question. If the spring feasts were fulfilled with such unbelievable to-the-minute precision, what does that suggest about the autumn feasts, like the Feast of Tabernacles, that may not have reached their ultimate fulfillment just yet?